Next one, housing and community development programs and projects. We have a speaker. Okay, there you go. Didn't say.
Whoops. Oh, there she is. I'm Linda Gardner. I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development for the county. And I thank you for the opportunity to overview some of our programs and projects that we are working on and have implemented. I know that the PowerPoint is being set up, but I also know you all have copies, so I'll just jump right in. I think people are generally aware that housing in all its forms has become extremely unaffordable for many, many people in many income levels in our communities across the Bay Area. In Alameda County over the last 5 years, rents have increased 21 to 60%, depending on where you're looking at in the county. Homeowner prices have gone up over 20%. Homelessness increased, not unexpectedly, because we can see it in our communities between our point-in-time count, which is a one-night count in 2017 and 2018. And unfortunately, so that's a 43% increase across the county, and almost 80% of those people are unsheltered. So our temporary or interim housing system for people who are unsheltered or are homeless has not kept pace with the number of people that are living on the streets or in cars. And then, in addition, the unincorporated county increased about 63%, but we are, across the unincorporated county, a relatively small percentage of the people who are homeless in the county. And the numbers and percentages that are up there, the 8,000 people that were experienced homeless on the night in January in 2019 that the count was done, typically what we see is 2 to 3 times that number are homeless over the course of a year. So in the unincorporated county in 2019, that one night had about 350 people who were homeless, including 321 who were unsheltered. That, if you multiply it by 2 or 3 times to get a sense of how many people might experience homelessness over the course of a year, would be between around 700 to about 1,050 over the course of a year. And we do see that in our data systems of numbers of people that we are serving who are homeless. We do see that 2 to 3 times number is accurate generally. So across the county, many people are paying more than what we consider affordable if they're renters. This data is for renters, but there's a similar data for for housing owners, homeowners. So in the unincorporated county, about half of the renters are paying more than an affordable, considered 30% of their income for rent. Many people pay 50% or more, depending on the income level. So the county has been responding around affordable housing and homeless issues for many years. I've been with the county for 32 years, and that entire time we've been working on housing and homeless, but it's so much more of a visible crisis over the last 5 to 10 years, both in terms of the affordable housing and in terms of homeless. So the county and the Board of Supervisors has really increased what we are doing in these areas. And I'm going to highlight a few things, and I'll be specific about the unincorporated county or Castro Valley when I can be. Some of the things we don't have that data drilled down enough to tell you Castro Valley specifically. But I also want to make sure people know what kinds of programs are available if they're looking for assistance. And I want to mention that there's more information on just about everything I'm going to talk about on our website. So if someone does want more information and I don't answer your questions all today, I'm happy to come back or to present in more detail on specific programs, or to come, people can visit our website, and they can also sign up for notices of various program or funding opportunities. So some of the new or expanded programs have to do with helping people stay in their homes, whether they're renters or homeowners. So we have an anti-displacement program that provides legal assistance and one-time financial assistance, and I'll go into that in a little more detail. We also have housing rehabilitation and minor home repair programs. We have first-time homebuyer down payment assistance programs, and there are brochures on 2 of those that you should have and that are also over on the table. And then we have programs that are specifically oriented towards preventing homelessness or helping people who become homeless, families and individuals, have a roof over their head of some kind while they are homeless, and helping them move as quickly as possible back into housing and then to stay housed once they're there. We also do finance affordable housing development, primarily rental housing, but we have in the past, and we will be again also financing the development of some homeowner housing. So one of the first programs that I wanted to highlight is AC Secure, and you'll see a trend. Everything's AC something. So AC Secure is the countywide anti-displacement current program that, as I mentioned, provides legal services for people who are in danger of eviction or foreclosure, and can also, for the lower income people who need it, there can be short-term or one-time financial assistance to help them stay in their housing and not become homeless or have to leave our community or leave their housing. It's a consortium of organizations that are listed up there, but someone who's looking for the assistance there's no wrong door. They can contact any of them, or they can contact 211 and get referred. In the first 6 months, that program has provided legal services to over 1,100 tenants across the county and about 60 homeowners, and financial assistance to about 40 people, and that's a 3-year, $3.5 million program. So we will be serving many more people. 2 additional programs that are countywide. One is one that's very new, and it will help people who are looking for affordable housing, subsidized housing at any income level, find housing that they want to apply to. Right now, we get a lot of calls from people across the county who say, how can I find housing? I can't afford to rent here. I need affordable housing. And we have to direct them to a 211, and then a variety of nonprofit developers or other developers, tell them to sign up on a lot of different lists. What this will do is allow them, it'll be an app and a website, it will allow them to create a user profile, indicate where they'd like to get notices of affordable housing openings or waitlist openings, and then be able to apply initially through the app or the website. It will make a big difference to making sure that people who are looking will be able to know what opportunities open and exist. Our capacity building program is helping faith-based and community-based organizations, that's what FBO, CBO means, who have property, and there are many who have approached us over the last couple years who say, I want to help with the affordable housing crisis or the homeless crisis in Alameda County, but I don't know anything about housing development. So what we've done is created and funded an organization to provide open training, and then for a narrower group that are more ready to go, technical assistance to help them partner with an experienced developer and create more affordable housing in our county using those assets, the nonprofit or faith-based organization. There are several county ordinances that HCD administers. One is the Mobile Home Park Space Rent Stabilization Ordinance. So there is a rent stabilization on mobile home spaces. It does not apply if the park owner also owns the mobile home. So if there's a mobile home owner who is renting the space, that's who it applies to, and it allows for a maximum annual increase of 4%, and it also allows, with no review, it allows park owners who feel that they need to raise the rent of the spaces higher than that to petition the county to allow that. We've not had anyone, this ordinance was revised a few years ago, and we haven't had anyone petition for an increase since then, but we have a process for that, and it also allows that when a mobile home owner leaves, that space is no longer controlled. So the owner of the park can raise the rent higher than 4% upon vacancy. And then we also have an ordinance that requires landlords, if they are of 3 or more units, who are raising the rent more than 10%, more than $75 a month, or more than once in a 12-month period, to include a mandatory language about the availability of rent mediation services in their rent increases. So, and if they don't, then that rent increase notice is invalid and they'd have to reissue it with the required language. We will be looking at, in the next few years, the next 2 years really, a number of different ordinances that board members have expressed interest in, some community members have asked us to look at, so that we can bring those as possible additional ordinances to support rent stabilization in our communities, anti-displacement, and affordability. The Community Development Block Grant is a program that funds all sorts of things. I'm not going to read all of this, but it's a long-standing program from the 1970s that is oriented towards lower-income neighborhoods, communities, and people. It can fund all sorts of things. For the unincorporated county, there's about $1 million a year available. It can fund, and we have funded minor home repair, housing rehabilitation, ADA accessible bathrooms and parks, curb cuts, street sewer sidewalks in lower income neighborhoods, economic development and job development, as well as a variety of public services, although those are limited by a CDBG rule to 15% of the grant. One of the things that CDBG funds is fair housing and tenant-landlord information and referral and rent mediation. You can see the statistics. These are for the unincorporated county, including Castro Valley. So if someone feels they've been discriminated against when applying for housing or in housing for one of the protected classes, people like race or family or something like that, they can contact Echo Housing and ask for information. They can ask for an investigation. Typically, Echo will do an investigation and then work with the landlord and the tenant or potential tenant to make sure they're aware of the law and following it. The same thing is true for tenant landlord services. We get, Echo gets questions and complaints. Sometimes the questions are from landlords, especially smaller landlords that may not be aware of all the laws, but they predominantly get questions from tenants and the main things that they've been getting questions about recently have to do with evictions, the rules around evictions, repairs, and rent increases. And there's some data up there for your information. We fund the 211 system, which hopefully everyone's aware of. It's a countywide and national phone line and also a website that is a single point of information for people looking for either affordable housing or services of any kind. So people can call there and get referrals to things that they're looking for. And that we did have some Castro Valley specific information. So in the first quarter of this fiscal year, 117 Castro Valley residents contacted 211 for services of all sorts. In Castro Valley, through CDBG, we funded street improvements like paving and sidewalks on Wilbeam Avenue near the BART station. We've funded ADA restrooms at the Adobe Center, for Hards Adobe Center, and we've funded rental housing rehabilitation for 3 different sites in Castro Valley. Then we've also funded the development of new affordable housing for 2 sites. Listed there, Lorenzo Creek, which is 27 units of family housing, and Strobridge Apartments, 96 units, which is a combination of senior and family. One of the big new programs is the Measure A Affordable Housing Bond. It's a $580 million bond passed by the voters in 2016, passed by over 73% countywide. It has 3 different homeowner programs and several rental programs. You can see the divisions there. I'll talk briefly about some of where we are on implementing the bond. We've implemented many of the programs. and some are rolling out this year. So AC Boost is the down payment assistance loan program funded by Measure A1. There are flyers that you have for this program. I believe it's one of the flyers. Its intention is to help middle-income families that in our housing market would have to move out of Alameda County to find a home that they can afford. And so it provides them a shared equity down payment assistance that would allow them to afford a moderately priced home, which there are a few, in Alameda County somewhere. We've had, you can see, almost 2,000 pre-applications when we opened this program, and we are working with Hello Housing, which is a nonprofit housing services provider, to administer the program, and they're having, for the first 500 applications in a lottery, they are working through those, having application rounds, and they've received almost 120 applications from that first 2,000, and they'll be reopening that also. Renew AC is the housing rehab loan program funded by A1. That one is also can go up to a lower income, which is fairly moderate when you look at the actual income limit, so almost $80,000 for a household of two. All the income levels are based on, they are different depending on the household size. So there's a whole chart that can, all the way from one-person household up to larger households. So for a household of two, it's almost $80,000. And provides loans of $100,000 to $150,000 to help people safely live in their homes by funding rehabilitation and accessibility improvements if needed. And it does have a target population of seniors and people with disabilities who are lower income homeowners, although it's available to anyone who's a homeowner at that income level who needs the services. So people can apply, and they'll work through that process. Measure A1 has a big focus on rental housing development for the most vulnerable populations in the county, many of them. So again, households that are in the lower income are the focus. And some of the target populations include seniors, people with disabilities, transition age youth, which is typically 18 to 24 years old, people who are homeless, veterans, and the lower income workforce. So far, we have funded one existing project for rehabilitation in the unincorporated county. It's the Bermuda Gardens apartments in Ashland. And the Measure A1 funds are divided into regional pools, and then each jurisdiction in the county also got a pool of money. It's all based on a formula. So for the regional pool for the mid-county area, we've funded one project, and then for the Bay City unincorporated, we are currently in the request for proposals process. This shows you all the cities in the county, including the unincorporated county near the bottom. Our base city allocation is almost 18 million, so that's what we're currently RFPing. And in the regional pool, the mid-county region had almost 45 million. All of that has now been committed to projects, including the Bermuda Gardens development. We are currently back on, just in case anybody cares, we're currently RFPing the South and East County regional pools. So some future projects, oh wait, I'm skipped a page. So then there's also a fund within Measure A1 to help developers, predominantly nonprofit developers, respond to our fast-moving real estate market, but it's a revolving loan fund that helps them acquire properties so that, because they really can't compete if they can't buy it right when it's available. So this one we are in the process of setting up and expect to bring a contract to the board in early 2020. And then we'll be bringing some additional possible programs to the board for consideration through the Innovation Fund, and we'll also be issuing requests for proposals for a relatively small homeowner housing development program for lower income households. We are also working on a number of homeless responses. I know you've had some presentations about some of these previously. We are coordinating the unincorporated homelessness action plan for the county. And these are some of the key programs that are funded and planned under that plan. I know you've heard about some of them. We've got the Downtown Streets team, which does outreach and sort of job readiness. We've expanded winter shelter beds in the cold and wet season. We've got the safe parking program that's operating now in partnership with healthcare services on the Fairmont campus. We are looking to start a mobile hygiene bus and funding the tiny homes project at First Presbyterian. We're funding expanded outreach, which healthcare will actually be administering and coordinating, and then the navigation center on the Fairmont campus. And I'll talk about just a couple of these very quickly in a little more detail. So for winter shelter, what we used to have in the unincorporated county was 2 winter warming centers, which are only open when it's wet or expected to be very cold. So it's hard for people to know when they'll be open. It's hard for us to engage the people that come to a warming center because they're not there always. And it's generally just a best practice to have a winter shelter that's open so that people are there more consistently and you can really try to engage them and help them move into housing. So we've typically funded over the last couple of years the First Presbyterian Church in Castro Valley, and then South Hayward Parish. This year, First Pres is doing both, and they've also expanded the number of beds that they can accommodate on a nightly basis. I know that you'll be getting a presentation on the Grove Street encampment tonight. One of the things that we did in response to that closure or that abatement of that encampment is worked with First Presbyterian to open 30 shelter beds on the day that encampment was abated, so that there was somewhere for people to go should they choose to do that. That's 30 beds, and it will be that and a resource center will be in operation until the winter shelter opens in December 1st. The Navigation Center, I know you will likely be getting a lot more information on at some point. It is intended to be a 50-bed, essentially emergency shelter with services and with a goal and focus of helping people move out of unsheltered homelessness into housing. And we are estimating, I know GSA is working on the buildings themselves and hiring that out. And as soon as they bring the contract to the board, which will be this month or next month, I'm told, it'll take about 4 to 6 months to actually get that into operation. The mobile hygiene unit is a mobile shower and laundry service. It's a bus, big bus, that will be paired with other outreach services and go to different programs or known encampments to help with hygiene issues at those locations. We're expecting to bring a contract for that in December. Many of the surrounding cities and cities throughout the county are also doing navigation centers and mobile hygiene units. So we'll also be working with them to coordinate that as well as the outreach. We have an encampment response team for the unincorporated county that meets regularly to review encampments. It includes the sheriff's office, healthcare, social services, HCD, and others as needed to keep aware of where encampments are, what kind of issues there are, how many people are there, and to create plans to address needs and help people move out of encampments and into housing. So that is not everything HCD does, but I thought it might be some of the key programs that you might be interested in or new things that we're doing, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have one. On the for the housing loans for the elderly or the rehab of their homes, what are the interest rates? Is that a forgivable loan? Is that a payment? How does that actually work?
So both. So the down payment assistance or the rehab or both?
Well, either.
Okay.
Right.
So the down payment assistance is an equity share loan. So there are no payments while the household who's buying it is in the house. When they sell it or transfer it, whatever percentage of their down payment our program was, the program will get paid back that percentage of the increase in equity, as well as starting with just paying back the down payment. So that way, it's a revolving loan fund, and that will hopefully keep pace with the market, and we'd be able to help other households. We crafted both it and the rehab program in a way to not add to the housing costs of typically overburdened families already. So the rehab program is also, it has an interest rate up to 3%, but 0 to 3%, but it also does not have payments while the household is living in that unit. It would be paid when the house is transferred or sold.
Okay, good, thank you.
I was just wondering, do you guys work with the building departments on some of the, I know that before you can get a shovel in the ground to build a home is about $100,000 now, with all the different fees and departmental fees and things like that. So when we talk about housing costs, a lot of it is generated by us as a government. So is there programs to help some of these builders and also to expedite the amount of time that from the time you start the project to get through all the permitting processes? I mean, sometimes it's a doggone year.
There will be some work that we'll be doing with the planning department for the unincorporated county in the coming year around streamlining the building process and all the permitting process. We have done at various times since I've been with HCD sort of an analysis of fees and how the unincorporated county compares to surrounding areas, and but we haven't done that recently, no.
I have a quick question. Your target population on the Measure A is seniors, people with disabilities, transition age youth, homeless veterans, lower income workforce. To qualify, what's that lower income number? Do you have any idea?
That's for the rental program.
Okay.
And let me find, there's some example, maybe I should flip through this. There's some example incomes there. It's all set by percentage of the area median. So the actual income levels will be revised annually, and it depends on the household size. So you have a few two-bedroom or two-people household examples there. 30 to 60% is between around 30,000 currently to about 54,000. 20% of area median is around 20,000 right now. And it can, those typically go up every year.
All right, thank you.
I saw something on the news just before the meeting tonight, and it was Hayward opened up a navigational center or something.
Yes, they
Can you
have a new
talk-
one. Fremont has one. Berkeley has one. Oakland has cabin communities instead of a navigation center.
I was just wondering when I was trying to figure out how did it get called a navigation center? You know, it looked like more of a transition center. You know what I mean? You know, but
The intention that I don't know where the name Navigation Center started in San Francisco, but the way we think about it is to help people navigate from homelessness into housing.
oh, okay.
It's a roof over their head with services to help them make it come back into a housed and sheltered
No,
community.
that looked like more of shelters and everything like that. There were modulars that were put together with a variety, maybe 20 beds in each one and things like that. Is that something that you're talking about in here when you talk about Fairmont?
Navigation centers are typically modulars. This one that we're planning for Fairmont would be 50 beds in 1 or 2 modular units, and then there'll be a services modular. There's usually, there's always bathrooms, there's showers, laundry on site, as well as service space. That is sort of a typical navigation center, and that is essentially what we're planning for Fairmont.
I was just wondering, as you look through this and talking to the officers in the police department a lot of times that visit these encampments, there seems to be a strong feeling there's a lot of alcohol, drugs, and mental illness. I didn't see much in here on how you're dealing with some of that and the help that people would get.
Those are some of the services that both outreach, if someone is unsheltered, or the different shelters and navigation centers and services do link people to. So that is part of what gets provided. I don't think I would say that there's enough of every type of service to meet every single need, but those are there's a needs assessment that happens as part of the process, and then working with people to help them address issues. In general, it's a lot easier to address those kinds of issues when you are housed stably than when you're on the street. So we try to help people get housed and continue to address their issues. And so there's some programs that also then work with people once they're housed to help them stay housed.
Kind of piggybacking on what Chuck was asking you, there are a lot of homeless people that choose to be homeless for whatever reason. They don't want to go into any of these centers. They, prefer, for whatever reason, mentally or whatever, they don't want any help. How do you address that?
So the research has shown that there aren't many people who actually want to stay on the street or totally unsheltered. Sometimes what we call the barriers to entry are our barriers because we haven't addressed their needs. So there's 3 common ones, which is pets, possessions, and partners. So we work to make sure a lot of homeless people on the street have pets. A lot of the typical shelters don't allow pets. So we have a program I didn't talk about that will work with existing shelters to remove barriers to entry of those types, as well as physical barriers for people who have disabilities. Partners, often the units are segregated by sex. There are some family shelters that are not. And then possessions, people have the possessions they have, and they're reluctant to let go of a lot of it. Sometimes they'll let go of a fair amount of it, but they need room to put their stuff. So there's also at the Navigation Center and other places, we're working to add more storage spaces so people can keep their belongings and they don't have to lose them to get a roof over their head.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, a couple speaker cards on this. Brandon Toller. Yeah, you put a couple of things. This is one of them, right?
Yes, sir. This is about the homelessness and homeless people and coming up and turning out and living where they live. Rome, a couple thousand years ago, man, they had the aqueducts, man. People, they were poor people, wealthy people. They could clean themselves. They could bathe. They could use the restroom. When you go to a place, man, you got to use the bathroom, but they won't let you use the bathroom. You try to be cool. You try to be respectful. But there's something going on.
Stay with
Yes, ma'am. Pardon me. But there's something going on that we're losing our humanity as humans. To understand that we all, excuse my French, we all shit. For lack of, honestly wanting to use that word. Do you understand what I'm saying? Have some respect, man. None of us, a few people run it for everybody. But for the most part, humans are genuinely good people. From the cops to the drunk guy who's a bum, What needs to be done is people need to be given a chance to not go work for the street team. Oh, here's your $10 card. Here's your $20 card. Whatever it's for, go use this and whatever. That's slapping people in the face. Pay them a decent little wage. Show them some skills, man. Build you some places to where if they can take a bath and a shower, it would be real amazing how much better that would make a person feel. I don't know if you've ever been really dirty for a long time. Have you? Any of you guys? I'm just asking. I mean, maybe a day or 2, 3 days, maybe a long time. I don't know. I don't know what your backgrounds are. Don't know where you come from. I'm only here by what God knows, and I don't, and the whims of fate. And for me to have to come here and tell you people about it, this is the place. This is a test, but it's not a game. You guys here in California, you're supposed to be the ones who set the example, who set the bar, who show people how to be people and do it in an educated way. The people I've met such great people here. I've met some really bad people. There's an art to meeting people. It truly is. And there was a cop that told me one time, he said, man, why don't you go back to Texas? And all I could say was, man, I'm already here, man. What can they do? Fire me? What can any of you do? None of us. We're already here. If we were smart, educated, and we were able to be powerful and understand these things and have a really good life, or if just by the whims of fate, man, crawling, straggling, just barely trying to survive. With great power, here it is, comes a lot of responsibility, man. And if there's some people who could find a way to do that for the lesser of the least, this is not to me but through me, from the utmost high, from the lesser of the least, what you have done for them, so have you done for my father. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I had to say.
Okay, Melissa Moore, and then Bill McGrew.
Thanks, Melissa Moore, and I'm here to speak about a couple different topics. But right now, just hearing the all the information that she had put out, the lady, regarding these programs and such. Especially the last one, removing barriers to entries of shelters. I didn't know that was a program that was actually being spoken about and being talked about within the council members and the representatives. Truly, First Presbyterian has stepped up to the plate regarding the homeless for a long time. They've been helping with shelters, emergency shelter, not the emergency, but the homeless, the winter shelter, housing people out of the cold, housing our people from the streets, and they're immensely helpful. And without them, there'd be a lot of cold people and a lot of miserable people, even more so than there are now. But the removing barriers, it comes into play in that, and also the abatement shelter that's currently open. When the encampment was abated, the Grove encampment, about a third of us, or a third of my people, went to use the shelter. They are able to use the shelter for various reasons, because they don't have pets, they don't have a lot of possessions, and they don't have partners, and it works perfect for them. About 2/3 currently have not been able to use that shelter because of those three things right there. Most people have pets, that's their comfort pets, that's their animals, protection, gives them comfort, emotional comfort. They're just part of family. It's part of the camp family is pets. The possessions, some people have more than others. That's their worldly possessions. That's all they have. You can't strip them of that, and of course they can downsize, but there's some things that you just, like all of you have in your houses, that you sentimental, that you wouldn't want to part with. And partners, there are a lot of people out there that are a couple, and First Pres doesn't necessarily promote separation of that, so that's a good thing. But there are huge barriers to the shelters being used, and that's a sad fact. And if there was more, like she was saying, if there's a way to prevent that, a lot more people would be in these shelters, believe me, because we don't want to be sleeping in mud and in the cold and wet. It's not fun. It's something that we don't choose to do. It's something that we're doing right now because we have no other choice at this moment, especially with the encampment abated. Now we're out in the streets, people seeing us, and trying to find a place to set up temporarily, someplace, winter's coming, where we could put a tarp over a camp, a tent, and just be there and be out of people's eyes and try to just survive. And we're not trying to hurt anybody, harm anybody, and right there and then and there, that poses a problem for the community and for us. And there's always just resistance, and so I understand that. It's something that needs to be bridged and talked about. And as far as the county encampment response team, I feel like that's a great program also. But with the abatement, and I know it's not about the abatement, but it is about the encampment response team. I feel like there should be logistically in place with the response team some sort of.
That's your time.
Okay, some sort of
So thank you.
process. You're welcome.
Bill McGrew.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen of the NAC, and I want to thank Housing and Community Development for their presentation and for the great work they do to keep our residents and citizens housed. I'm speaking on behalf of the Rental Housing Association of Southern Alameda County, and one of the items in the presentation caused us a little bit of concern, and that is the very first point that rents have increased in Alameda County from 21 to 60%. Don't know the source of the data, but I passed out to each of you before the meeting data from a company called CoStar, which phone verifies rental information down to 5-unit buildings. And you can see on the right-hand side of the page, under the orange banner, that the first top line, Castro Valley, the 2019 rent At the end of the third quarter, it was $2,060. At the end of 2014, it was $1,608. That's a 28% increase over 5 years, or 5.6% per year. And you can follow that all the way down through the communities in Alameda County that are listed here, and see that the actual range is 21% to 30%, not 21 to 60. So what, when we're talking about homelessness and housing, don't want policy set on data that's not tight and accurate. We're a membership organization, and this reflects poorly on our members to believe that this is true. So we do absolutely believe that the housing crisis is real. The biggest, most reliable solution is supply. The second most reliable solution is keeping the people who have housing housed. Evictions, by far and away, the greatest reason for evictions, and recognizing that only a court can evict, a landlord can terminate a tenancy, but a court can evict. Greatest cause of eviction, 75% and higher, is non-payment of rent. So many folks who are in that situation are in a situation where 2 months, 3 months worth of breathing room could see them through. So we would love to see the county focus on increasing the number of bridging programs, grants, loans, whatever it may take to get a tenant who's having a hard time through that temporary hard time and retained in their current residence. We have 700 members approximately that provide 37,000 units of housing to people in southern Alameda County, and 70% of them are folks who own 4 units or yet less, and the last thing they want to see is someone evicted. So programs that would help that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the cards I've got on this subject. Anybody else want to speak on this? Okay, I need you to fill out a card afterwards, but come on up. Speaker card, please.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Adams.
You want to pull that down?
I'm sorry. My name is Cheryl Adams, and I'm a resident of the abated encampment in Castro Valley. And my concern is accountability. We understand that we did wrong. We're not saying we're saints, we're not saying we're angels. But before these problems arise, the CHP, these pictures and stuff, before any of this happened, several of us have been in the mayor for 4 or 5 years with no problems, had a liaison officer with the regional park, reached out to law enforcement before any of this kind of stuff happened, asking for help, talking about unsavory people coming in the area, crimes that we knew were happening. Why was that addressed then? We reach out to law enforcement. They come to us. Is there a problem? Do you need help with something? Is there something going on that we need to know about? We bring it to their attention. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. And then it leads to something like this. This can't happen again. Something like 2 days after, on the 17th, there's 2 dogs getting killed. Something like that can't happen again. What if that was a child instead of a dog? The system that's in place right now doesn't work. Reaching out doesn't work. But then grouping us all into being what people deem as homeless, drug addicts, thieves, liars, it doesn't all apply to us. What about the people that do work for a living? People that do go out and do odd jobs, or even recycle? What these stories say, for the last month now, is making us all look like we're degenerate, low-life drug addicts, thieves, and we're not. None of the resources that you people have talked about tonight were offered to us. 7 days. Can anybody tell me here in 7 days how you can take what you need necessary, pack it up on your back, carry it out, and find a place to go and relocate? We were out of sight and out of mind for a long time, and we don't like being in the public eye. We try to relocate, we try to stay out of the way. And when we see somebody of our own doing bad, we reach out. But where's law enforcement helping us? Where's the county helping us? That's all we asked. We never said we didn't have to leave. We didn't say we didn't do anything wrong. But to sit here and listen to this community and these people that I grew up in, and several more people, be talked about and downgraded and belittled and grouped and stereotyped and judgment? Yes. It's wrong. Human capacity, compassion, humanity, we're all human beings. We can all be where I am today at a blink of an eye, and people don't realize that. When we need help, when we reach out, where was our help? But then nobody's saying the other side of the story. Nobody's coming and talking to us, asking what our side of the story was. You know, the pictures you show, that's stuff that's grouped together. Law enforcement Caltrans told us, take what we could take and leave it behind. It was Caltrans' responsibility to haul it off. They already had funding to take care of it. It's making us look like we purposely did that. Like we purposely hauled it, you know? That's not the way it was. These pictures and all this stuff, this is all stuff that's grouped together. And for the amount of money that was paid for all that trash and debris and biohazard waste to be hauled off, I'm very sorry. But all that area should look like, when you look down the street, I'm sorry, it's going to take 1 second longer. When you look down from the street from Clug View, that whole encampment should look clean like that, and it does not, for the money that was paid.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to speak on this? If you could fill out that card, that'd be great. Council members, any comments?
No, I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit about that encampment, but I mean, maybe Linda can tell us about how that was approached or handled, or if there were any resources offered to those people?
Kathleen Clannon, who's a Healthcare Services Agency Medical Director and also the Director of Whole Person Care. Her department, along with HCD, but even more so, is coordinating the outreach and responses. There were 2 pop-up service. We didn't get a lot of notice from Caltrans, so there wasn't a long period of time. But there were 2 sort of pop-up service events that were held right at the Grove Street encampment, right near it. And do you remember the numbers? I'm sure you came to speak on that item, which I didn't. So, where there were a variety of services and assessments conducted and referrals. And then the other response that we were more heavily involved in was the reaching out and working with First Presbyterian to open those beds. It's true that right now, people with pets can't accommodate pets at that site until December 1st, and they're working on when they open their regular winter shelter, which is in a different location in their buildings. Then they are working to try to accommodate pets. But they're within the 2 weeks or 3 weeks that we worked with them to open their emergency shelter, the 30 beds, they're not able to accommodate pets at that site.
So we just have these people wandering the streets?
That was a Caltrans decision to abate that site. The county responded by providing the 2.
Excuse me. We can't have you talking from the crowd, please.
The 2 pop-up service events and the increased emergency shelter. And I know that you'll hear more about this on that item on your agenda, but Kathleen, Dr. Clannon, do you want to say anything?
So I can talk more about what we did offer to folks either here or when it's on the agenda later. What's the will of the council? Should we talk about it now or when it's on the agenda later?
When it's on the agenda.